Welcome everyone to the Consistently OK podcast. My name's Luke and I'm here as always with Nick.
Aloha.
And we present to you with a bi-weekly pod centered around pop culture that we do our very best to make consistently okay just for you. Each month we give you one episode where we dive into something such as a film, TV show, game or comic and we break down our thoughts and more on it. Our second monthly episode will be our in-depth series, and this season we're focusing on Batman, films to animation. We'll take you on a journey through the highs and lows, ins and outs of the representation of Batman throughout the years. This week's sponsor comes from our good friend Harry Hughes. If you're looking for an illustrator to sketch your favourite character from any of the pop culture goodness, or maybe your own character, then head to www.etsy.com/uk/shop/Basford Art and commission him. You can follow Harry on Instagram at Big Basford, and you can find the links to his social media on the description of this episode. And today we are back in our in-depth series, so this is a Batman episode, and we are finally at the, I don't know how to say it.
The golden age.
The golden age of Batman film, where we are going to talk about the first of the Joel Schumacher films, which is Batman Forever. So it's a very exciting / depressing time in our lives where we had to rewatch these films.
It's great.
It was great. Such a great time.
Yeah.
So today, we're focusing on Batman Forever. So, I mean, where to start with Batman Forever? It's definitely the golden age of the Batman films, like you said. It's lots.
I almost feel like with this one, it is somewhat easier if we focus on the areas that we have in our brief, rather than jumbling. I feel like it's just an interesting watch, and I feel like maybe a good place to start is cast and crew.
Okay, well, let's start there. I'll do a little bit of background for those who haven't watched Batman Forever, which you're either very lucky or you're going to be watching it as soon as you listen to this and missing out. So it's I guess kind of a sequel to the Tim Burton films, Batman and Batman Returns, but Tim Burton dropped out and Michael Keaton was offered the role of Batman again, but he dropped out. And it came out in 1995 and it was directed by Joel Schumacher, produced by Tim Burton though, and it's obviously based on DC Comics Batman. And it was a success, definitely a success in merchandise sales. I think it did pretty well at the box office as well, but it wasn't mind-blowing. As far as I know, I think it did. Yes, 100 million was the budget, and it made 336 million, which I guess in 1995 probably counted as a success. So that's a little bit of the background of when it came out and who directed it. And it had a new Batman was cast, which was Val Kilmer. So as we're going to start with cast and crew, then let's dive into. I guess we'll start with Val Kilmer. Is that the logical place to start? As he is Batman.
Yeah, and I watching it back, I think his Batman, like him as Batman, works. I don't think him as Bruce works. In that there are a couple of scenes where he is Batman, I was like, oh, that's all right. That's not actually too bad. It's just the scene with him as Bruce where you meet Nigma.
Yeah,
I just thought his Bruce interpretation is way off, and it just doesn't. It's just weird.
I don't think he works as either.
Oof, scathing.
I'm not going to go into this film and say that I really hate it or I really like it. I just don't. I don't rate it. I probably did as a kid. I probably thought it was, if I remember right, that it was pretty cool because obviously it's more kid friendly, which we'll talk about with the story a bit later. But I've never ever thought as Val Kilmer as Batman. Michael Keaton, yes. Christian Bale, yes. George Clooney, probably not either. But I mean, both of those films were there. Their portrayals of Batman and Bruce Wayne didn't work for me. But Val Kilmer there's something about the way he looks under the cowl that just doesn't seem very Batman, or just doesn't look intimidating.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Kind eyes. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't look good. And you're right. The boardroom scene with Enigma when they're, or not the boardroom, the workshop. I don't know, the floor, when they're doing things, and Enigma shows off his inventions. Yeah, it didn't look good, it didn't sound good. And Val Kilmer just doesn't come across. I actually read up on the choices that they had for Batman, and it's like, Jesus Christ, why didn't they go for one of those? And apparently Val Kilmer, he didn't even read the script. He didn't read the script. He just signed on.
Solid.
He didn't know who was
Good.
directing. Didn't read the script. So straight away, just doesn't sit right with me. But obviously, 1995, Luke didn't know any of this.
This is true.
I think even then, I mean, I would have been pretty young. I think Michael Keaton was still Batman in my eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a really strange choice of casting. When watching it now, even more so, because I think it's the first time I've watched it in a long time, because it's definitely not one I go to thinking,
Yeah.
you know what Batman film I'm going to watch? And then someone being like, Dark Knight. I'm like, no, Batman Forever.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Good soundtrack.
Yeah. Is it the U2 track? Is that the one for this one?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, it's U2. Yeah, it's U2, and it's Seal, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Big hit.
Yeah. As well as Val Kilmer as Batman, you've also got Tommy Lee Jones as Harvey Dent Two-Face,
Which also doesn't work.
It's sensational.
Ugh,
It's
not good, is it?
Great. To be fair, actually, there is one scene. I think his first scene where, and when we get into talking of the story of this, it feels like he's in another film. Like he does a fairly decent job of acting the part of Two-Face, but then it's the dialogue and the visual of him that just tears it apart. Like his pitch for Harvey Dent, like if you didn't look at it and you just heard that, if it was like a radio play or something, I think it would work. But it's just everything else around him that I was just like, no. And then he progressively gets worse. It's almost like that was his first day on set, and then it's like, oh, we're making a campy Batman.
Well, he had issues on set as well, didn't he? So
Yeah.
I knew this before as well, but I checked a few different things and different stories, and he did it. He didn't want to do it, but he did it for his son. He told him he should do it, and then he also fell out with Joel Schumacher, and also he didn't get on with Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
So
I read that as well.
you put all those into place, plus Val Kilmer being a complete moron on set apparently as well. Then it's tough when you're most of your scenes, apart from the ones he did with Chris O'Donnell. You're doing scenes with Val Kilmer, who's not doing his job properly, and and Jim Carrey, who is doing his job properly apparently, but you don't want to work with him. So
Yeah.
it didn't suit him. The campy Two-Face, over the top stuff didn't suit him. You put Tommy Lee Jones as sort of the Aaron Eckhart Two-Face from the Dark Knight trilogy, with that serious tone. I would think Tommy Lee Jones would be very good as Two-Face.
Yeah.
But this didn't work, even though the way he looks as Two-Face isn't that far removed from some of the comic interpretations of Two-Face.
Yeah.
But it was just it just didn't work. Him as that particular version of Two-Face didn't work for me. I'm not sure if I would have enjoyed that character more if someone else was playing that role. If you put like a Robin Williams or someone in that OTT role, then maybe. But yeah, I mean, the reason I think I didn't like it, which probably goes more into the story, is that I think if you had a more serious Two-Face and the sort of outlandish Riddler character, that would have worked a bit better. But instead, Two-Face comes off just as comical in a way as Riddler.
Yeah.
And it just didn't suit Tommy Lee Jones, who is a very good actor.
Yeah. And it just sort of rolled into it. It was just that one scene. Like when I started watching it, his opening scene, I was like, oh, he's not as bad as I thought in my head. And then as the film went on, I was like, no, it is as bad as I thought.
Well, his lines of dialogue don't do him justice. I mean, that will obviously go into the Batman and Robin film as well, but it's like they amped it up even more in Batman and Robin with the bad lines for Freeze and Ivy and everything. But this is, little bits of hinting what's going to happen in the future with these villains, because it just didn't work, and it's really a really odd choice of casting of Tommy Lee Jones in that role. But
Yeah.
on the positive note, because I'm pretty sure my other casting things I'm going to slate as well for all the other characters. The only one bit of casting that I do like, although I didn't quite like what they did with the character, is Jim Carrey as the Riddler. Because
Yeah.
for that sort of a film, when it is set like that, if someone's going to be really over the top and they're not going to do Joker again as an over the top theatrical villain, then Jim Carrey, if you look up probably the script on paper, then he's probably done everything that was asked of him, and he's run with it, and he's actually a pretty good Riddler.
Yeah, I absolutely love Jim Carrey. I think he's amazing. Just as a comedian, he's connected to my funny bone. But he there are times in this where he does look like Nigma as well in the comics.
He does.
Like there's a couple of like kind of visual stuff where you kind of go like, yeah, I could buy that. And again, it really is just the dialogue and like the visuals that sort of let him down. And it's not his performance. I feel like it is just the everything around him. Again, I feel like it's
Yeah,
the same as
I think if you
some of the
put a darker version of Batman, but you make that Riddler as crazy as he is, then it would actually maybe would work a bit better. But because, like you said, there's a lot going on around him that isn't working. His performance, although it stood out, it kind of gets lost a little bit. And I actually think he works as an enigma as well. I think the bit when he's on his little bike and everything going up to the gate is good.
Yeah, it's cool.
The riddles are
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah,
There's
awful.
it's not hard to suss those ones out. And the idea of the, again, this is the story, so we'll talk about it later. But main thing here is Jim Carrey as a Riddler worked. It's probably for me is what stands out most in that whole film is the Riddler and Jim Carrey's performance.
Yeah, I'd back that. And then the only other things that I'd really commented for casting crew were, first of all, Drew Barrymore's in it. I was like,
Yes, she is. Yes, she's one of Two Faces.
yeah, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
And Jon Favreau's in it.
is he?
I was like, yeah, he's got like a proper blink and you'll miss it. He is one of the like board members or a security guard or something in that group of people when Bruce Wayne's first introduced and he's walking the floor.
So he's
Of, like,
Happy
the
Hogan.
workshop. Yeah, he basically could have been playing the same role.
Whoa.
But he's in it, and I was like, as if Jon Favreau's in it, and he's like the Kickstarter for the MCU. Like, it's just bizarre.
That's cool. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I sort of clocked it. As I was watching, I was like, that looks like Jon Favreau. And then I missed a section of the film because I was searching IMDb to be like, is that Jon Favreau?
Nice.
Yeah, and we lose Danny Elfman on score as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of things.
Yeah.
We lost a lot of things.
Yeah, and again, the score I think sets the tone a little bit with it. Yeah.
We need to talk about Chris O'Donnell as well and Nicole Kidman. Kidman, we don't have to talk much about Nicole Kidman because
bizarre character.
Very very odd. Like the story is she was obsessed with Batman, but not Bruce.
Yeah.
Chris O'Donnell as Robin. Obviously, there's a bit of controversy about his age, but I actually think he's pretty good in the role. But again, just like with pretty much every character that's in this film, it's the dialogue that sets him back. There's some real bad lines. That's the one that he says. It's like a classic Batman TV series line. What did he say?
Oh, did I write this down?
I should have written it down because it stood out to me. It's
like holy. Later on, towards the end of the film, I wrote this down. Holy rusted metal, Batman.
Yeah, that's the one. Holy
great line.
Metal. Such a great line. No, not good. It gets worse than Batman and Robin, doesn't it? But yeah, that's the dialogue that ruins it because he's not a bad actor. He's a good actor, and the age doesn't bother me at all with it. That doesn't matter to me because again, if this had carried on, then whether he would have eventually turned into someone like Nightwing or something like that, if they decided whatever they were going to do, it's this age doesn't bother me really. I think it's probably better that he was cast as a more adult Robin than this very young Robin, because it
Yeah.
would have been imagine that dialogue. It was
Yeah.
child Robin.
Am I right in thinking at one point though that Tim Burton almost cast Robin for Batman Returns, and it was Marlon Wayans?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we were talking about that on the Batman Returns one with Neil from Get Your Comic Con, weren't we? He brought it up actually, and it was going to be Marlon Wayans. So that was, I mean, imagine that would have been cool to see Robin in the Tim Burton version of Batman, wouldn't it? I think that would have been a lot different.
I'm pretty sure I also saw when I was doing research for this film, and I don't know if I said it on the Returns because I don't know if I'd found it out then or whether Neil said it, but somebody produced a toy of Marlon Wayans' Robin. Like it was that far, like that close that it was basically like toy companies had a concept or something to go off of. And when I was researching this and I was reading about the role of Robin, they said how there's like a figure out there of him.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think we spoke about it. We spoke about the script and that he had signed on for 2 films, Marlon Wayans. I remember that, but I don't think I remember about the figure. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I sort of stumbled on it. Unless it's the internet lying to me again, which
internet,
happens all the time.
That's pretty crazy. But the thing about this film with the cast, that's the big thing, is they recast Batman, recast Robin, they recast Two-Face. They don't use any of the previous with female characters from Batman and Batman Returns. They didn't bring Michelle Pfeiffer back as Catwoman, and they didn't bring Kim Basinger wasn't in it, obviously, and she wasn't in the Batman Returns either. But the only person who's kept his place, or one of the main characters, I guess, is Alfred. And does Commissioner Gordon change? I can't remember now.
Yes. No.
Yes, he does, doesn't he? Yeah, it's a different actor, isn't it?
Is it?
I think so.
Alfred doesn't change. Alfred stays the same.
Alfred's the consistent, isn't he? He's the only one who stays in the whole thing. Him and Chris O'Donnell as Robin in the sequel to Batman Forever.
Yeah.
So casting wise, a big fail. I think in terms of Batman and Two-Face, Chris O'Donnell and Jim Carrey, I liked and I enjoyed I didn't mind them being cast. It's just their dialogue was shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
For the majority. And Nicole Kidman is fine as well in the role, again, given with what she had to work with, but just odd. So many like gazes up at the sky and like whooshes of her hair and everything. It just fell flat for me, that whole thing. And I don't even think Joel Schumacher did that bad of a job with, again, what he had and what was written, because again, there's a lot of people that said that it was actually going to be a lot darker. They're saying when he passed away, there's a Schumacher cut out there that is 50 minutes long and it's much darker. Apparently Batman fighting an actual bat. So again, it's probably the studio interfering, and this has all come from, if we go next into the story,
I was just about to say that sort of leads into like a big component of where I was going to talk about with the story of it. So
but it's kid friendly, isn't it? This is what studio wanted. This is the essence of what the Warner Bros. Have done with so many things, like we talked about Justice League before and everything like that, is that they wanted it to be kid friendly. They wanted more asses in seats, and they want the toy sales, because the toys from Batman and Batman Returns got pulled from McDonald's because it was too dark, and they wanted more money and they wanted the kids to like it. And like I said, in 1995, when I'm a kid watching it, I imagine that I loved it. I remember watching Batman and Robin more as a kid.
Classic. It's amazing.
But this I can't remember overly seeing it. I remember going to the cinema to see it, but I can't remember what I felt like after I saw it. Other than being like this Jim Carrey bubble because of things like Ace Ventura and everything in The Mask.
Yeah,
he was huge then, wasn't he?
Gotcha.
Now, but he was at that time he was massive. So, but it's everything's changed a bit, hasn't it? It's not as dark as it was. It's a bit more lighthearted. Obviously, there's a lot more comedy in it. I mean, the only comedic things you had in Batman and Batman Returns were sometimes really the little things that Bruce Wayne would say when Michael Keaton was playing Bruce Wayne, which is nice. But you don't get, Val Kilmer doesn't give you any. There's nowhere. It doesn't feel like there's any comedy. There's stupid comedy, like the holy rusted metal lines and things, and Riddler being Riddler. But it kind of feels like they don't know, because Joel Schumacher obviously wanted something a little bit different as well. It doesn't feel like they quite got what they wanted.
It definitely feels like, when I was watching it as well, it feels like, knowing now that there's a Schumacher cut of it out there, it feels like there is, two versions of this film, and there's one which is a film that's about Batman versus Bruce Wayne. It's the can Batman exist without Bruce Wayne, and can Bruce Wayne exist without Batman? It's that psychological, how do the two function? And you can kind of see it, like Nicole Kidman's character is the psychologist who is there to sort of facilitate that. You've got the story of Robin, who reminds Bruce of himself. All of these things are kind of there to present this argument of Bruce's kind of internalized demons. And I actually watched the deleted scenes. I almost said DLC then.
I was going to say downloadable content.
Yes. Yeah, I watched DLC for Batman Forever. And watching the deleted scenes, you can kind of see that as well. You can see it more apparently, that you're like, okay, there is literally like another kind of side to this film. But then it's just contrasted heavily with, this desire to make Batman accessible by everybody, to make it a kid-friendly toy manufacturing kind of film, which they do really well. I mean, Batman has like 2 costumes in it. And I think Riddler has 1 or 2.
Yes, 2, yeah. And I think Tommy Lee Jones, so Two-Face has 2, and
and
you get Robins at the end and everything. So
yeah, it's just so much of it is about what can we sell. And so I do feel like Schumacher signed on to make a certain style of film, and then ended up doing another one. And I feel like the one that he ended up doing is what influences Batman and Robin, because as like when we get into Batman and Robin, as much as we joke about it, I've read with that his intention was to go into it and make a film like Batman 66, which I think he succeeds in doing. Like he does that. And I think with this, that wasn't his intention, but it was the studio's intention to make something a bit more aligned with that. And this feels like the stopgap between the kind of darkness of Tim Burton and Batman 66. This feels like this is the middle ground of like, well, we could have made a film that's kind of darker and more psychological, or we could have made the kid friendly, let's sell Happy Meals kind of.
I definitely agree. It's the middle ground. It definitely feels like it's the middle between the Batman Returns and Batman and Robin. I still think it's a mess. I
gotcha.
I don't think the story beats are that good. I didn't when I was watching it, I really hoped I would enjoy it again, even just for nostalgia, but I didn't really. Other than some of the Jim Carrey stuff, I didn't really enjoy the story. The bit that stood out to me when I was younger, the bits I do remember was obviously it's quite quickly to go into it as well. There's not much. It's Tommy Lee. I just keep calling him Tommy Lee Jones. Two-Face against Batman and all that bit, and then you obviously got the Robin family as well, which is quite dark. That's pretty dark. Obviously the family getting killed off.
Yeah.
Which again, you probably wouldn't have seen something like that in the Batman and Robin film, because that is even more kid friendly.
Yeah.
But just, I don't know. I just when I watched it again, I really can't believe I'm sitting through this again, because I just thought some of the characters were just way off the mark. And because again, it's hard because you know what's come before it and you know what comes after it in a way, not Batman and Robin, but the Dark Knight trilogy. So it feels like even more of a slog to go through. I appreciate it, and we'll talk about the visuals, because visually it's like a gorgeous film, like the way it looks and some of the shots in it and everything, and some of the, I mean, you can't, the costumes are mental, but I mean, they're what they are. They're good. They look good. They just don't fit the way I would view a Batman film. But they pop, and they, and like I said, some of the actors have got material wise, they make work. But I just find the story. I wish they had taken. I wish Two-Face wasn't in it. I wish it was just Riddler for that respect. But with all 4 of these Batman films that we've talked about, the first 2 and these 2, it feels like it's more about the villains than Batman.
Yeah.
And a huge chunk of Batman Returns was more of a Penguin Catwoman film, it felt, than a Batman film. Joker was really the big point in Batman 89. And for this as well, for Riddler to be the thing that stands out to me, it just feels like it's all about the villains. And what's lacking in this film, especially, is that you do have a bit of the Batman stuff going on, like the Bruce Wayne and Batman stuff, but it just isn't enough. There's just not enough about Batman.
Yeah.
And it's a really weird title for the film as well.
Yeah, Batman Forever. Bold.
Which I heard Tim Burton hated. I just don't. It just feels like it's. I don't know. Just that didn't fit it either. Like it didn't. None of it really works for me, other than the way it looks and some of the Riddler stuff. So it's. I feel like I'm just going to be ultra negative, which is the point while we're dissecting, obviously. But I really wanted to like it more than I have done in the past. Yeah. But what did you think of the story? I mean, overall, I think the story's shit. But what did you think?
I mean, I feel like I'm gonna, in summing this up, I feel like I'm gonna blur the lines between visual representation and the narrative. But it's sort of hard with this film to talk about them separately. I think cast and crew is one thing, but then these sort of then just blend in because it feels like a lot of it is informed, like a lot of the visual informs the story, which in my head it should be the other way around, that you should have a story and that informs how the world looks.
Yeah.
Like, you know, with like Batman versus Superman, which is amazing. You've got, they knew they were telling the kind of broken Batman, and so therefore his Gotham is like very broken, very disjointed. It's very kind of messy. Whereas this is almost like, first of all, Gotham's rendered digitally, which is really weird. Like that shot where they go into the workshop scene, it's just odd. Like it looks really, really wrong. And so much of the film is vibrant. Like, you know, there's that whole random neon alleyway scene.
Yeah, it's super. The whole thing is like that. There's neon and all that stuff, and that's what that pops. Like it doesn't, for this time of the story, that version of Gotham doesn't bother me. The story in that Gotham bothers me. Yeah,
it's just peculiar. And yeah, like you said, like the opening piece of dialogue, I'm pretty sure is a joke. I can't remember what it is, but I just remember like the opening piece of dialogue for me is always like the opening and ending are always the kind of quite important, because I feel like it just sets the tone and it sets you up. And I'm pretty sure this is a joke, and then it's just immediately into action, and then you've got the very Batman 66 moment of when they're in the vault, the safe thing, and there's the security guard who's like, he's boiling acid, and it's just like a really forced piece of dialogue that also just the way the guy acts it feels like it's just ripped straight from Batman 66. And then you've got the safe that swings exactly back to where it came from. Like,
yeah, it does. Yeah,
it's just logic is completely out the window, and you kind of go, okay, this is a completely.
You think about that opening, and then you think about the opening of Batman and Robin, and this opening is fantastic because
I mean, the opening of Batman and Robin is special.
It's really special, but this opening is it doesn't work either. I'm pretty sure it does open with a joke. Is it Two-Face? Is it someone says a joke at the beginning? You're right. I'm pretty sure that is the first bit.
And it was just like, really?
Can I randomly just say something about this? Do you think if this was the first if Batman 89 hadn't happened, but this was the first one that came out, if they went with this first, it was like Batman Forever, maybe without the Robin bit, but this kind of Joel Schumacher version, do you think it would be held in higher regard? I know a lot of people like it for nostalgia, but do you think it would have done better because it would have gone from something like the Batman series to this?
Yeah, for sure. I think had you not known that Batman could be presented in a darker way,
it would have been. Because I do think that. I think I would have enjoyed this film more if I didn't know what had come before and what came after, obviously. But
but then saying that, you would have gone from Batman Forever to Batman and Robin, and
I mean, just the Joel Schumacher universe. Like, imagine if Robin maybe would have been introduced in the next one or something. But if it was a sort of OTT campy, like Batman 66 sort of stuff, probably would have been like, hey, it only gets better from here. like in terms
True.
of the order and things.
Yeah.
But I mean, it all has its purpose, doesn't it? Obviously, these two films led to finally Warner Bros. Thinking, right, like let's strip it back, and then Christopher Nolan stepped in, which is thank God. But yeah, so I've took us off track then, but it's only because
right.
I was thinking about that question when I was watching it. I thought, what would make this film be better? Because I can't see a way out of it for when I'm watching it, and I thought probably if it had come before Batman '89, if
Yeah, I think
this was Batman '89.
Yeah, I think it would have been a completely different idea.
It's probably a stupid question, really, but it's just I can't think of. I'm just trying to place it in the Batman timeline where it would work, and the only thing I can think of is bang at the beginning, and you would have to change elements of the story, obviously. But
yeah,
I still don't think Val Kilmer would work as Batman. I don't think I would have watched another Batman film after.
again. Yeah,
it's not because he's a bad actor either. Like
no, he's
I love
great.
him.
I think he's
Top
cool.
Gun and everything. It's great, but I just I've got the poster on my notes now, and
Classic.
It just doesn't look like. It's actually a pretty cool poster as well. You look at the main one, which got Batman like at the top, and then you've got the 4 sub characters at the bottom. Now, like Riddler, and that looks pretty great, but it just didn't pan out.
Yeah, and like, I mean, there's so many things that I just wrote down about the script where I was just like, this really doesn't gel. Like when they do the Two-Face origin, which is all through the TV screen, which again is very forced, that it feels like they go, okay, we'll have a news reporter rehash how he became Two-Face. And it's like they've got the comic origin of the acid being thrown on him. Cool. But then it's just really weird shot of Batman, who just happens to be in court.
Yeah.
He's just there, who then like does a weird dive. And it looks really, really stuttery. It's almost like somebody's gone like, we can't just have Two-Face getting acid thrown at his face. We have to have Batman in that same shot. And then they just filmed somebody jumping over a barrier. It looks really weird.
It does look really weird.
But then on the flip side of that, you've got the Riddler's like house introduction, where he goes home and you sort of see like his trinkets and all of his kind of stuff. And that I think looks amazing.
Yeah.
Like that, I was like, this is awesome. Like if they'd shown that in the trailer and set up just the Riddler with that, I would be like, this is going to be awesome. Like that would be an amazing film.
That scene reminded me a lot of Electro in Amazing Spider-Man 2. With his when he's got a lot of like Spider-Man stuff on his walls and everything.
Yeah.
So, but I really liked that bit as well. I liked seeing him craft all the stuff, and you can see him going a bit crazier and crazier. And that worked. Those bits of Riddler worked. Again, it's just dialogue that sets him back. But
yeah, and I love his like little like the guy in the Riddler costume who does the like.
Yes, that is cool.
That's just a fun little thing. I feel like, again, you know, as you've said, that they got most of Riddler correct. It's just the dialogue and the story he happens to be in, I think, is wrong.
Is that thing with the box, like the thing from the film Big, you know, the talking box or the joke box, or whatever? That I like that because it's not forced. It's not like he's not like tailored. He's not like gone out with the idea he's going to be like the Riddler. It feels as natural as, I guess, Catwoman's origin in Batman Returns, where it's, you know, Penguin is Penguin, but she's like, you know, these cats, and she's finding stuff. She's making her costume to feel like this thing that she's what she feels like, the Catwoman. And Riddler just sees that costume. He's like, that'll work. That'll do. But then you've got Tommy Lee Jones, who's just, you know, who's making those suits?
They're awesome. He makes them himself, surely.
Yeah, awesome.
Because everybody knows that Harvey Dent is a great fashion designer.
That's true, yeah. And his 2 assistants, Drew Barrymore and blonde person.
Yeah.
So
bizarre. Yeah, and then the only other things that I'd sort of picked up in terms of the story were like little things where, like the scene where Dick does his washing and laundry.
Ugh.
I just don't understand that. Like, I don't know who went, that's awesome. Like, that's really cool.
Painful. That's just so you know, that's the YouTube clip right there.
It's just, Not good.
The sink into my hands moment when we talk about the laundry.
Classic.
I did write it down. I was just going through my notes now. That's what I was doing because I did write down, trying to see where I put it. What is up with the laundry scene in Chris O'Donnell?
Nice.
It's just, I mean, can you imagine that? Just even filming it must have been like, right, okay, so this is what's going to happen. You are going to do the washing mainly with your feet and your hands. It's going to be awesome. It's like, okie dokie. It's like, what's that? What got cut? What got replaced?
Yeah.
Something 50 minutes of material got cut, but that scene got kept in. Just
odd.
So frustrating.
It's also like that scene isn't long followed then by where Dick finds the Batcave.
Yes.
And
this definitely isn't a film for. No, you carry on. I'll say what I was going to say.
Sorry, I was going to say, so like, again, no problem with him finding the Batcave. It's got to happen at some point. The way it's done is so forced, and also, so he does it where he tries to time it with Alfred going downstairs, right? Why does he yell the word now?
Yeah.
Like he just goes,
talking to.
Yeah, he's like, now. And then makes the run and jump and all that stuff. But I'm also like, how does Alfred not hear him? Like, he's only just gone through the door, and how does he not then hear somebody go, now? Would you not turn around and be like, sorry?
What did you say?
Nothing. What are you doing?
But also, he times it's like he does it as if he's like practiced it several times.
Yeah, it's it's just
also bloody Val Kilmer. He doesn't get deserved to call Bruce. He tells what's Nicole Kidman's character called? Doesn't sound like a real name.
Is it Meredith? No,
it is Meredith something, isn't it?
Yeah, Meredith.
I have it here.
I'll IMDb it.
But don't brush me.
Dr. Meredith.
It's obviously stood out to both of us.
She's so good. Dr. Chase Meriden.
Chase Meriden, yeah. But he tells her about his identity as well.
Yeah. It's just like
there wasn't any need.
Yeah. He's just on it. He's like, I am.
Keep it in your pants, Bruce.
Batman.
Stop sharing.
Yeah.
I know she's a psychiatrist, but Jesus, just.
Also, the scene where he like knocks down her door, like actually knocks it over. It's like, how fucking strong.
What was the other thing I wrote down that was really, really funny? I don't know if it's in the comics or not, but it's what the island is called that Riddler is on with the at the end. What's it called? It's called like Claw Island or something. I should have put all the funny bits in big letters. So I don't know. It's called Claw Island, I'm sure.
It's so
It's Claw Island. That's the name of the island.
Classic.
I don't know. It's just
original.
Sounds. I don't know if it is in the comics, so maybe I'm misreading, but it does sound like something they were thinking that come to Toys R Us and you can pick up the Batcave, Claw Island with Riddler, and Shoot has Nicole Kidman's character, whose name I've already forgotten.
Yeah,
and Robin.
Yeah,
and that's also that end scene in the story. It's just so anticlimactic. Like, basically like a batarang. There's no actual. It feels like there's no fight really. There's no.
Yeah, there's just nothing major that goes down, and yet the opening is so
action packed.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of action at the beginning and a little bit, I guess, in the middle, but the end is just throwing coins at Two-Face and throwing a batarang. And it's just there isn't much of. Just feels like there isn't a lot of Batman. Just doesn't, which is maybe why I'm a bit anti Val Kilmer as well. Because I feel like like you said, is the Bruce Wayne stuff doesn't work with Val Kilmer. Maybe the Batman stuff does, but then there's more Bruce Wayne in this than Batman.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really flow so well either. So I'd love to see if the extra stuff that they cut is more Batman stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to. Like, I do hope they do manage to release it somehow, because I'd be really curious just to see what the original idea was. Because, like, I don't think it'll be as drastic as the Snyder Cut, which was, like, two characters basically completely removed and, like, dark side and all that stuff. I don't feel like it will be as dramatic as that, but I feel like it will make the movie go from kind of campy nonsense to just sort of like a more campy Tim Burton.
Yep.
I feel like that. I feel like it becomes less middle ground and more. You could see it following on from what Tim Burton did, which would then make the jump to Batman and Robin even more kind of like, what the fuck?
Can't wait to talk about Batman and Robin.
Me too. It's gonna be so good. What else did I pick up? Oh, I really liked, again, something that I thought it did quite well is the Arkham scene.
Yeah, at the end, yeah, it's pretty good.
I thought that was quite cool. I was like, sure, it's really gothic, and like when we get into Nolan's stuff, the thing that I always think lacks from Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises is I don't feel like it's Gotham. And I'm deliberately trying to not think about that too much to see whether when we rewatch them, whether that's something that I go, oh, it's actually more Gotham than I remember. But I just remember watching Batman Begins, like that's Gotham, and then watching Dark Knight being like, that's Chicago. And there just being like a clear distinction. Whereas at least with certain aspects of Schumacher, he's sort of kept that gothic vibe that Burton set up. But then there are other things where you're just like, that's definitely not. That's just shit.
I like these, but I like both the Burton and the Schumacher versions of Gotham themselves. I don't mind. Like, it is a bit weird with the switch with the digital stuff as well, like you said, with some of the buildings, but the visual of all four of these films, that were the Burton and the Schumacher ones, the visuals don't. That's probably consistently that's one of the best things. But yeah, it's with this one especially, I think it was really let down because it is that middle ground, like you said, between Batman Returns and Batman and Robin. I just wish they'd. I kind of wish this was. I don't know if I don't want it to be more like Batman and Robin, but because it doesn't know what it wants to be, it's hard. I think it's hard to watch.
Yeah,
right?
I
find it frustrating, and I guess, like I said a million times now, because of some of the casting, I think it doesn't work. Because a Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face in a darker version of Batman, that will work. That would work all the time. But in this version, because there's the darkness of killing off the Grayson family, which is a dark moment, but it's not even like villain of the week vibe. It's just, I don't know, it just feels really out of place that it's that version of Two-Face that's done it.
Yeah.
That was odd.
And speaking of the Graysons as well, the shot where you see them all dead is like pretty comic accurate, I think.
Yeah.
It's just that because it's like an overhead shot, I think, and you see like all their bodies lie there. That looks really, really cool. And
that's a good scene. That actual scene is pretty. I mean, apart from the time bomb bit,
classic.
It's a pretty good scene. And that scene would actually work in a lot of, even if you made it a little bit darker in terms of the circus and stuff like that, and some of the other bits of it, that would work. I mean, that's a good origin for Robin, isn't it? It's the origin. Yeah. So, it's just a shame that Chris O'Donnell doesn't even seem that affected by it. Oh, not Chris O'Donnell, Robin.
Yeah,
right? Doesn't seem that affected. He's disappointed and he's lonely, but at no point in this film should he be smiling. Like, he should be. Yeah, he should be out for blood, shouldn't he? But he only shows like fits of rage a couple of times, but it doesn't. I just don't think a lot of it works, Nick. Yeah. But what would you give it? Is there anything else you wanted to go into it with?
So there's just a couple of things that I just wanted to mention because I was just like, no. The final scene with Batman and Robin, where they do the like setup and they run down the thing.
Terrible.
Awful. Terrible. So cheesy. And also I noticed that the ears on the cowl wobble.
Excellent. That's what you want in a cowl.
As he runs, they're like, woo. It's like, no, mate. Just no. The Batwing just looks shit.
Yeah.
His final suit, like Batman's final costume, was just, again, as a toy, I'd be like, sure, this is fun. But in the film, it's just like, No, it's a bit
Only
much.
gets worse. Only gets worse from there.
I mean, Clooney's suits are just immediately great, though. Like, straight up nipple suit. Cool. Yeah, just so much about it is just weird. I also don't know if you noticed, but did you see how big the fin is on the Batmobile?
I did. I
It's
did see this. Yeah,
enormous.
ridiculously big. It's not very stealthy.
No, like if that was in Batman Returns when he's like just crawling along the streets and looking at Penguin through a window, definitely would have seen that. Like the thing is so big.
I mean, to be honest, how Penguin didn't see, I still think about that to this day since we spoke about it on the podcast for Batman Returns. Like, how didn't Penguin notice him?
Yeah, just didn't spot it out the window. But yeah, just not the winner.
Not the winner, no. What would you give it then? A consistently okay rating of 10 out of 10.
Oh, interesting. I don't think we've done this for the others.
Have we?
I don't think so.
Oh no. Should we do it now?
If you want to.
We'll do Batman Forever first.
Classic, because it should have come first.
Should have come first.
Probably like I hadn't thought about this, but probably like a 3 or a 4.
Oof.
In that, like, there are things I like about it, like Jim Carrey, and there are certain visuals that I think work. But
that's exactly what. The only reason I would give it a 3, and that is only because of Jim Carrey and the visuals.
Yeah.
And Seal Kiss the Rose soundtrack.
Nice. Does that play when they're at a gala? Is it like
it's the gala, yeah? But I actually thought when I thought about it, I thought that was from Batman and Robin.
What is the track for Batman and Robin?
It's
Is that the Smashing Pumpkins?
It must be. That's the only one that hasn't been on yet, so it must be Smashing Pumpkins.
Bizarre.
Well, no, I'll remember in time for our next in-depth podcast.
Yeah.
But out of curiosity, Batman 89, Batman and Robin, Batman Returns, I would give Batman 89 like a 7 out of 10 consistently. Again, I give Batman Returns an 8. I love Batman Returns.
Yeah, I'd give 89 a 7. I'd match you with that, just because some of the Joker scenes are a bit cringe. And I still really just don't like the scene where he dances. And Batman Returns, I'd give a 9.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it is really strong.
So when we do Batman and Robin, just to remember to do a consistently okay rating, then we have the whole thing.
I can tell you that now, it's going to be a 10 out of 10.
Let's give it 10 out of 10. Yeah, I was going to say that. Now we don't need to do it. Unless because when we do Batman and Robin, we'll be having our good friend Harry joining us.
Yeah. It's his favourite film ever.
It is his favourite film. But we'll talk about that on Batman and Robin. Let's not spoil anything about what a wonderful podcast that's going to be.
Yeah.
So that's it for our in-depth episode on Batman Forever. I nearly forgot the title then. That's how
could you? It's
forever. I care for it. So hopefully you enjoyed it. And we're doing our next one, which is going to be Batman and Robin, which is going to be out in a month's time. We'll be joined, like I said, by Harry. So our next episode, we're going to be focusing on 2 TV series that have just landed. We're going to be talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe TV series Loki, which I will tell you for now is amazing.
Yes.
So if you're listening to this and you've not watched it yet, please watch it because it is going to be full of spoilers and I cannot wait to go into it. And the other TV show we're going to be talking about is the Netflix Masters of the Universe Revelation, written by Kevin Smith, which we were both very excited about, aren't we, Nick?
Oh my god, yeah, can't wait.
That is going to be good. So, if you would like to hear more from us at Consistently OK Podcast, you can find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Consistently Pod, and on YouTube by simply searching for Consistently OK Podcast. We stream on all podcast services, with each episode coming out on Wednesdays. If you're an Apple Podcast subscriber, you can subscribe for extra content. Extra content coming out with this episode is going to be us talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe film Black Widow. So if that's something you've seen, you want to hear us talk about that, please subscribe and you can hear us go on and on about Black Widow. I think that's it from us then.
Yep, I think that's everything.
All right, dude. Well, I am looking forward to not watching Batman Forever again, unless for some reason we have to talk about it again in the future.
We will, every year.
Yay.
Yeah, because it's forever.
Because it is forever.
Yeah.
All right then. Take care, everyone. Thank you all for listening. And Nick, we will talk soon.
Yeah, catch you in a bit, dude. Bye.
Bye.